All right, guys, welcome to the Investor's Guide of Memphis Real Estate. I'm your host, Dean Harris, and as always, I'm with Douglas Skipworth. How are you, man?
Hey, man, doing great.
We are bringing you this podcast, guys, to give you the experience and boots on the ground knowledge to be a successful real estate investor here in Memphis. Please like and subscribe to the Investor's Guide of Memphis Real Estate on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you listen to your podcast and want to catch us. Show sponsors are listed at the bottom of your screen. We could not be doing this show or running our business without any of those guys. CrestCore Property Management, Cortland Financial, Triumph Construction, Local Title, and Griffin, Clift, Everton, and Mashmeyer for you guys that are just listening. So really proud to be affiliated with those guys. I help buyers and sellers every day. If you're looking to buy or sell anything here in Memphis, shoot me an email, dean@crestcore.com, and I'll be happy to get you set up. Man, I'm stoked about today's podcast. These are always fun to give you a list. So we're going to talk about the 3 best decisions and the 3 worst decisions we've ever made in real estate. Okay. A lot of people like these things when we give lists and we give our own kind of personal experiences. So this is going to hit pretty personal. It'll be relative to some. It won't be to others, but you'll see how, I guess how in some ways we got here and how we faltered along the way. So top 3, you want to start with best or worst? Yeah,
let's go with worst.
Worst decisions. Yeah, all right. I'll give you my 3 and then
I'll piggyback up.
So I didn't. The very first thing I did and I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast.
Battlefield?
No, 34. Battlefield. It still stings me to this day. So I bought a home in Raleigh, great price. I got it for like $38,000. I put phenomenal price. I got a rehab bid of about $8,600, and at the time I was like, "Ooh, that's $3,600 more than really what I was wanting to spend." And I thought to myself, I need to be a diligent investor and stick to what I want to spend in my numbers, and paid no real attention to the back end of it. Right. Okay. So I went through and got my little pen out, and I'm checking off things that that I felt didn't need to be done or could have been pushed to later. Yeah. And of course I reduced it down. I believe it was $4,700. That was, almost half of what I wanted to be at or where it was. And I was like, all right, here we go. Closed, did the rehab, got me a nice tenant in there. Lady was super nice, got her in there and she was all snug. And then all of a sudden, hey, this isn't working. Like, okay, well, let's send it out. I was like, wait a minute, that's 3 weeks after she moved in. I was like, okay. And then about 2 weeks later is this faucet. Then 2 weeks later, it was this light switch.
Oh, man.
And then it was this, and then it was that. And then I'm telling you, like an avalanche, here comes the maintenance calls. And some were related to the things that I specifically checked out. And some weren't. Some were just other maintenance calls because I don't know that I did a good enough job of my rehab guy telling him what all to do, right? So again, it was a mistake that I had initially made. The biggest one that I made was that I did not complete the rehab. I saved $3,000 or so in rehab up front that I well exceeded throughout the house, right? And maintenance calls and everything throughout that process. It drove me so nuts. It drove me so batty crazy that I thought the right thing to do was to sell it, right? I sold it. I got, made $8,000. I think I sold it for just under 49 maybe or whatever. You know how much the house is worth today? Because I looked about $135,000.
Almost triple what you paid.
Almost triple, $140,000. It's a $1,200 rental that I would have had for about $40,000. Okay, so I'll give it another 10 in rehab in this 6 years.
Pushing 50.
So I'm $52,000 on a $1,200 rental. Sold it.
Wow.
That stings when I'm out here now looking at houses and going, at $50 increments on whether I can make it a deal or not. I flushed this one down the toilet because of my ignorance on not paying enough attention to the rehab and doing the right things, not coaching my rehab contractor going in there up front probably was where I should have started with it. But skimming on the rehab that the guy gives you is a mistake that I wouldn't encourage anyone to make.
And mine kind of piggybacking off of that was I did the rehab on the front end. Mm-hmm. I did the burr, but I did the rehab to start. And it was good. And the first few were good. And then I got lazy, and I've said this before, I got lazy and started looking at spreadsheets and the numbers on spreadsheets. Well, I could go buy this house over here for cheap and put this rehab in that, and in more challenging neighborhoods. And I mean, I got burned. We've talked about this. I mean, I ended up with houses and properties what looked good on paper.
Yeah.
Then, for whatever reason, were losers in real life. Struggled with the rent collection. Struggled with the
tenant base,
the length of stay. So then the turnover. So ended up having to sell dozens of properties.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, CrestCore Brokerage, for helping me out of that situation because I did the rehab on the front end and did it right, but it was in the wrong location.
So it wouldn't have mattered. What you're saying is my mistake because it was in a different area of town. You didn't make that mistake, but but there was something else in that area that didn't make it work. Tenant base, turnover, whatever. It
just wasn't. Yeah. So it's like I did whatever. What you did is like, oh no, I did that. So I'm saying just because you do that doesn't mean
everything else is going to be great.
Everything else is going to be great. You still have to stick. When I got lazy, I had a core focus of an area of where I was going to be.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh well, this one looks good on paper, and I'm doing well over here. So
added up quick.
Added up too quick.
Number 2, top 3 worst decisions we have ever made in real estate. I did not start to burr early enough. I waited. It was a little bit easier entry, and what I thought was an easier entry. I used some hard money, Cortland Financial, and I bought some. This was years ago. So I bought some properties that were occupied. Several within 9 or 10 months. 4 or 5. Okay. When I first, after the Battlefield or the first one debacle and got rid of that, I come back in and I'm new energized, right? I got all this new energy and I know what I'm doing. So I went in and still not knowing what I'm doing. So I went in and used some hard money and I was like, oh, I found a couple of houses that were occupied and cash flowing already. Right? Different from this first one. Don't want the rehab and placing the tenant. I want them in there and going. So I went in and bought my first 9 or 10 that were occupied and cash flowing. And
sounds great.
Oh, it sounded great. But man, when I tell you that bit me in the ass, I mean a huge chunk. I'm talking sharp chunk. And here's why. It's great at first because you close on your homes and then the next 30 days, here comes some rent checks, right? Man, making money already. One thing I didn't just, as a new investor with some mentorship, but not really because me, I thought, of course, I can do it because I've been in real estate for 15 years. It's the same thing, right? So I close on these homes and I'm, next thing you know, I get 6 months into it and I'm like, okay, I got 2 people moving out. I was like, okay, like, all right, that's all right. I didn't figure they'd be there forever, right? Send over my trusted GC, and I get back it's $8,500 on one and $11,200 on the other. And I thought, that's $20K in cash. Like
cash.
Loan is not open. It's not a line of credit. I've got a sealed and completed loan on these. Like, I had to come up with 20 grand cash. Luckily for me at the time, I had it and I could get these. But look at the bind that you're in. If I didn't have it, I got 2 houses that are not habitable. No one can move in there. And now I got debt. I got a monthly payment and a home I can't fill. Think about how bad that could have gone south for me super fast. That could have put me. That's why I advise my clients to start slow.
Yes.
Don't make these same mistakes that you did. But the headline was I didn't start to burr early enough. I should have come into this scenario, bought something safe, bought something easy to learn my mistakes like I did on my first one, to learn the mistakes of not having, buying all these occupied homes. Now, I'm not against an occupied cash flowing home, right? I'm against buying a bunch of them at one time without savings to know that the rehab is coming.
Yes.
So if you want to buy a bunch of them and you budget 10 grand at a time for one of a rehab, you say there, I think you're okay. But I did not. So to me, not burning early enough was my second biggest mistake.
Yeah. And again, kind of my kind of response to that is like, okay, I did burr. I told you, I was burring, I was doing that. And then I got a little bit lazy on the due diligence / the wrong contractor. And we you kind of alluded to that on your first one.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before because when you have the wrong contractor, you pay 3 times. And I've paid 3 times because you pay to have it done, you pay to have it undone, then you have to pay to have it done again. And so I got, even though I was burring,
Yeah.
I had the wrong team.
Yeah.
Right. And so I had the wrong people, so that when I went into a property, we bought a house that had some fire damage and thought, oh, this is great. It's real close. And, we're just going to get our contractors in there, put it, and then, man, we'll be in kind of a similar battlefield kind of situation. Great house, great location, high rents. And they went in and fixed it. And then code came by and was like, oh, no, you got to undo everything you've done. Then we had to go hire somebody else who could actually get the work done, which was a more expensive contractor. And so
it just gives me the chills thinking about it. It's 3 times. You said this on three times for something.
You pay 3 times, and it's so again, even if you're burring, you can still mess up if you're not using the right partner.
That's right.
You're not using the right contractor team. You're not getting the right information on the front end. And you're going with your gut. You're going with kind of, I've done this before. You get lazy.
Big time.
And cutting corners. And that's where I have, there's a theme here of cutting these corners. And getting lazy and saying, oh, I've done this before. Now I can do it again.
Do it again.
Yeah.
The third thing, the worst decision I ever made was I didn't coordinate with banks quick enough. I just didn't coordinate with bankers. I didn't develop any relationships with bankers. And some of the we'll see the best decisions we made were kind of the opposite of that. But I didn't coordinate with my bankers quick enough. I didn't really start to establish a relationship with a banker. Some of the other things that we talked about building your team, you need property managers, title company. You need all these things. Do you have to have them immediately right up front? I mean, I guess with management you do, but with banking, I was way late into developing a relationship with that banker. Now I've got great ones with several, but I waited way too long. I was honestly 20 plus houses, 30 plus houses deep before I really made a strong personal relationship. Hey, let me just stop by here and I don't need anything today. Right? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Those are, I waited way too long. Now I had some bankers or I wouldn't have been able to have those houses. But what I'm saying is I waited way too long hey, you want to go to lunch? Let's just go. I don't need any money today. Let's just go to lunch. I waited too long.
Yeah.
Because, and the reason why, I guess the flip side of that, the reason why I'm saying that is because when I did start to do that, doors were opening everywhere. Doors are opening all over the place. Yeah. So that's kind of my third worst thing.
Yeah, and I had a different point.
Yeah,
you changed it on me.
I did.
That's good. So, but I'm going with you. So and I'm going to do that same thing of like, hey,
sorry.
No, that's good because I'm going to say the same thing, but I'm going to come at it from a different angle. Because I came from a banking background and a finance background, I had my money lined up and I had my relationship lined up, but I got too aggressive on my amortization.
Yeah.
I was trying to put these things on 15 year, 12 year, 10 year, if I could stretch and just cinch that belt real tight. And it just didn't. I just wanted to get the things paid off. Man. I just wanted to get there. And, that was 20 years ago. Like if I had just been a little more patient and not so uptight of like, I got to get this paid for, then that the cash flow wouldn't have been so tight during some of those years. I ended up having to refinance things and it's like it's like, even if you have the relationship and guess what? The bankers loved that you wanted to put it on a 15-year or a 12-year or a 10-year.
Yeah. They get their money back.
They get their money back. They're like, this is less risk. It's easier to take to committee, on and on. The longer you go, the more risk there is, the lower the payment. We're not building equity in the home. I understood all that. So I was kind of coming from that saying, whereas I'm like, if I had just been a little more patient, stretched it out, said, what's the difference between 5 years in this business? This isn't a get rich quick. No. It's going to be okay.
I'm battling some of it now.
Yeah. So it's like,
I'm on short-term
it's like,
time.
okay, you get those relationships, just stick to your game plan. Don't kind of like we talked about last week, just focus, stay to it. And you'll get across the finish line. I mean, it's like a marathon.
Big time. All right. Top 3 best decisions.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Like, let's go with the good stuff. I don't, they're telling you all these horrible things. And I don't think I'm pivoting on you this time. I think
no, you're not. That's good. Well, I'm good.
The best decision I made and finally decided to make it was I'm focusing on one thing.
Yes.
I am a long-term buy and hold single family investor. It's all I own. I don't know. I own a couple of duplexes if you want to call that multifamily, but I own that's it. I know how to do it. I know where to buy them. I know how to buy them. And this is part of what I give to my clients and what I give out. Like I don't send houses out outside of these areas, right? I don't expand to certain areas to sell houses. I think that's one reason why we've had some success here is that we don't sell in areas that are traditionally tough to sell in, right? And own in. So becoming good at one thing was it. And I am good at buying a single family home. I've now taken that and become good at burring a single family home.
Yeah.
Right. So focusing on the one thing was the best decision that I made. And it actually went further past investing, selling this specific kind of real estate and only selling this kind. Like, I've said this 100 times, but I don't show residential owner occupants property. I just don't sell that kind of real estate. I refer it out. This is all that I kind of do. So focusing on that one thing.
Same. I mean, I echo that. Whether it's, to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That's fine, But even more than that, the one trick pony we've talked about, but more than that, and we talked about this last week of like putting all your eggs in one basket and then watching that basket, right? And that's what we're talking about here. It's like, hey, I became really focused on single family and learned about it and built the right team and developed a process so that I could manage and own these properties.
Yes.
And build the wealth, get to where I'm trying to go through single family rental houses. And I'm the same way.
Just one, I can talk about different areas of real estate. I got investors that buy all kinds of real estate. I'm just telling you that for me as an investor, taking the real estate agent hat off and putting just the investor hat on, becoming good at one thing, it's like I feel so confident.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I also don't, and I don't get into topics and talking about commercial real estate. I don't try to say because I've been in this for forever and I'm an investor that I know all that. I don't get involved with that.
No.
I just stay away. I bring other people in that'll help me or whatever it might be. But single family, a little duplex action and stuff here talking to Memphis.
I'm your guy.
I'm your guy. I mean, that's one thing we can talk about that. Yeah. So that's that to me is kind of the best decision.
Good.
Number 2, starting to use a line of credit. This is the only thing that helped me scale.
Yeah.
I told you that whole story about buying homes that were occupied and cash flowing, one of the worst things I ever decided to do. Whenever I started to use a line of credit, that's when my burring took off.
Yes.
So I was able to burr not as many as you want to, but I was able to burr kind of at will, right? Yeah. You do a good job burring, your banks love it. They love the way that you set that up. I mean, they're getting a home that's rehabbed and that they essentially are leaning on. So I didn't, starting to use the line of credit after buying some of those early on homes to scale has taken my business from the second floor of the apartment building to the top floor.
Yeah, it's a game changer. Not only for the things you just mentioned, but you didn't even talk about like on bidding and cash offers.
Yeah,
being a cash offer and you get the properties that people are going to struggle with if they got financing contingencies and such. So being a cash buyer, cash is king. So using a line of credit, it's awesome. Just go replenish it and go do it again and do it again. And it's just, I use it, since the beginning and always, it'd just be so challenging to operate without a line of credit.
A lot of capital. You would need a lot of capital. And look, to obtain one, maybe you're listening and you're in your hometown in Cleveland. Okay. So use your bank there for a line of credit. Come buy them here and refinance with the local bank here. Personal loans with people, family.
That's right. Yep.
There's anybody's looking to make some good money out there. We've got, Cortland Financial, that's a hard money lender. They'll loan you in some cases 100% of the purchase and 100% of the rehab. So,
can be.
There's other ways that you can do that, but lines of credit from your bank, personal HELOCs, any of that stuff are always great.
Great way to go.
Number 3, top 3 best decisions I made in real estate. And this one's huge. We'll spend a little time here on this one. Was network building. I mean, building a network of people that know what I do, that are familiar with me and my processes and what I'm involved with has been the biggest kind of key and component
to help in your real estate business.
In my real estate business, investing. And short story, I bought a large package of homes last year from someone who is not in the real estate business.
Okay.
Essentially, their life doesn't revolve around real estate. This person heard me speaking about it and talking about what I'm doing, and what I sell and kind of who I am or whatever. And then that opportunity to buy those properties came up only from that one conversation. And then to go a little step further, meeting that person came from another referral that from a social thing of mine. So I follow a band, and that person came from there. Well, let's keep going. Meeting that person there, Will Griffin with Griffin, Clift, Everton, and Mashmeyer introduced me to that person after I closed on a deal there. Okay, because Will knows what I'm doing because I follow the band, and he knew it. And introduced me to this person that was with the band. The person that was with the band introduced me to this other person that had the portfolio of houses that didn't know, we didn't know each other at all. All right, so let's keep backing it up. So even from Will Griffin at Griffin, Clift, Everett, and Mashmeyer, he had a family friend that was friends with my first cousin. And that's how Will Griffin became involved with CrestCore Realty in some aspect with you and whatever. So don't tell me that your network and letting I haven't sold anything to any of these people. I'm not selling them anything, right? I'm just talking about what I'm doing. I'm networking. When you go to a network event and you got your little cocktail in your hand and you're moving around, you're typically not saying, "Hey, I got copy machines for sale," right? Even though you might be the biggest copier salesman, you're not out there trying to sell. But you're talking about the business and you're schmoozing and talk, and people know you're the copier guy, right? That's kind of what I'm talking about. Sharing what you do in your network with your network, sharing your goals, sharing all of that all together, you never know can help you. So to me, the third one was building my network.
And 100% that same for me, because the biggest and best deal I've got was a very similar story from a buddy of mine who was a family friend that I got to know. And he was a consultant and was helping a troubled loan situation 10, 15 years ago. And was like, "Hey man, you want to look at this?" I was like, "Absolutely, man." So just a thank you. And that's not what he does. He just happened to be in a situation to refer me to the guy who was kind of working on it. So I was like, that was awesome. I had talked years ago to my family and kind of told them what I was doing, and I got a chance for some private money loan from them to change the trajectory of what I was doing.
Were you asking for it, or were you just talking about what you were doing, and then all of a sudden now it makes sense, and here's the opportunity? Was it a presentation, or were you just kind of talking about?
No, it was years of talking about what I was doing, and them eventually coming alongside and saying, "Hey, man, we've heard you, seen you. What can we do?" Yeah. And I was like, "Hey, what about this?" And we started small, and we worked our way. So just talking to people, just being, whether it's show sponsors, whether it's us, whomever, talking to folks. Like you said, not necessarily using them for business or selling, just talking, just telling people what it is you're doing.
Yeah. Proud.
And then, whether it's a law of attraction or what, things will start coming your way the more you do it. And so and I found that the network has been the best part.
So never mind the build your team episode that we did, right? Where we're talking about your network. You need to be doing that anyway. That's within your business, building your network. We're talking about when you're at dinner with friends that aren't involved, or when you're at your church group, or when you're, whatever you're doing, your social groups or whatever it may be.
Yes, there you go.
Just talking about what you do and how, you're not selling anything. You're just communicating and talking about your life. You never know what can come from that. Yeah, and that was my biggest thing, is just never be afraid to talk about what you're doing. Talk about how you're doing it if you're having some success with it, and willing to help and share with others. I mean, that's been, that's another big help, is you're just willing to share and help. So that building your network and network building to me is but the best decision probably. I should have put that maybe at number one. With how my year went last year and with how some of those things panned out through that.
Because it all came from stuff like that. Same with me.
It's
like when you come to that, it's like it all goes back to, man, the network and talking to people, and because people like to help you.
That's right.
People like to help people they like and know. So
people like to help you, especially if you want to be involved and you're willing to be helped. All right.
Good deal, man.
Thanks for listening. Top 3 worst decisions, top 3 best decisions. Hope you guys learned something from this or got a chuckle out of it.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Bye.